Tonight, we're going to a dangerous area of an Amazon account so we can understand the relationship between humans and PPC campaigns. Crikey! Take a look at this.
We're face to face with a hard-hitting predator. And oh boy, this keyword means business. Its toxic venom can lead to hundreds of clicks without conversion. One bite, and it can leave you paralyzed with high ACOS for weeks.
Now, these predators won't be mucking with us. We've got the biggest predator on our side, the ad badger. Oi, easy boy.
And we're here to help you tame these beasts in the jungles of Amazon PPC.
What's going on, Badger Nation? It's Mike and Steven, and you're listening to the PPC Den podcast, the world's first Amazon advertising podcast, and your source for all the tips, tricks, and optimization strategies you need to grow your Amazon ads.
And you can join thousands of listeners and get bonus content at adbadger.com/podcasts.
What's going on, everybody out there listening? Today, it's actually a special day that we are recording this, Steven. Did you know that today, the day that we're recording this, July 2nd, is the midway point through the year?
Is July 2nd, not July 1st, is the midway point?
I'll be honest, it's July 1st, but I think we're pretty close enough. We're in the midway 48-hour point.
Well, consider, February only has like 28 days in it, so really that would mean that you got to push back, or I don't know, so maybe it is July 2nd. If you're going...
Was it a leap year this year? We've got a lot of burning...
Yeah, we got things going on.
We got a lot of burning questions. It might have been a leap year. The jury's out on whether or not July 1st or July 2nd is, in fact, the midway point of the year. Either way, no matter what the answer is, we thought it was a really good idea today to look at the midway point through the year and evaluate data in both directions. You know, what 2020 has done so far. Obviously, Steven, 2020 is quite a bit of a year, quite a roller coaster, quite a tumultuous time for so many, quite a... I don't even know. How would you describe it?
Someone told me, not someone told me. I saw a meme.
Okay.
It was on TikTok actually. So I recently got TikTok.
Are you talking, dude?
I'm ticking and talking.
Whoa. Do you ever do both? You ever do both at the same time?
Sometimes. But this guy was going.
Okay. He
was saying in like the year 400 AD or whatever, when we adopted the Gregorian calendar or whatever. We added 8 years to the calendar or whatever. And he's like, so the Mayans were right. Like, the world does end in 2012. Like, this is 2012 or something like that.
So while the world does look pretty crazy right now, for sure, there are some things that, bringing it back to Amazon advertising, there are some things here that we're going to do today, which is really evaluate all of the data for the first half of the year, pull out some conclusions for you so that we can all walk away as better Amazon marketers, because really understanding the trends of Amazon advertising allows you to anticipate what's going to happen next, and it allows you to better understand benchmarks and baselines for your particular campaign that you're managing. As always, we've got some, I guess we want to call them disclaimers or caveats, or I was just at the park the other day because I'm still only hanging out with people outside. He called it a primer. He's like, what I'm about to tell you needs a primer. So the primer here is that one, this is our internal data. We're evaluating almost 20 million clicks. We're evaluating almost 50 million in sales. So it's a gigantic chunk of data. And we are sort of looking at that. We're studying that. We're aiming to extrapolate big trends from all of these individual clicks and sales. Also, this isn't parsed out by industry or average order value or even individual advertiser size. So it's all sort of lumped together. In the future, keyword is version 2. In the future, when we release version 2, we will aim to have better analysis for this to make this even more meaningful. So be sure to go to adbadger.com/launch to be on that launch list so you can find out when we launch the greatest PPC tool ever created on September 1st, 2020. If the internet is still around at that time.
Who knows, man? Armageddon. Mike, like you were saying, there's been a lot of bad news in 2020, but we're looking at the trends going into the second half of the year, just going off of the first 6 months. And we finally, have some good news to be reporting on, which I think is awesome,
Stephen, before we get into the data and the trends and the takeaways, if you could describe Amazon PPC data for 2020 so far in 3 words, how would you describe it?
Amazon PPC data in 3 words?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm at a loss. You're saying just the last 6 months, how to describe the last 6 months, or just in general, all of Amazon PPC data?
Yep.
All of it of all time, all data that we have, how to describe all of the data in 3 words?
For 2020 only.
For 2021. Better than ever.
Woo! That's it. So that's a really good summary. So actually, let's jump into it. We've got 4 big key metrics that you should be paying attention to. Let's jump into the first one. All right, the first one, the one that I always like to evaluate because I view it as like the temperature of the room, which to me is cost per click. Tracking cost per clicks changes how you do digital marketing, without a doubt. When Google Ads first came out, when you couldn't first buy advertising on the internet, clicks were like under 10 cents all the time. And what that did was that shaped the way that digital marketing was done. Because you were able to get clicks for like 2 cents, you didn't need to do anything else. You didn't need to focus on conversion rate optimization. You didn't need to focus on content marketing, building an email list, doing all these fancy things, optimizing your pages. You didn't need to do any of that because traffic was so cheap that as long as you were spending money, you would get traffic and then get conversions. Over time, with CPCs rising, that forced innovation, that forced people to optimize their product pages, that forced a lot of things. If you think of the dark ages of digital marketing where it was like enter your email for a free iPhone, people were able to do that and make money, essentially, unfortunately, scamming people because there's no actual free iPhone at the end of that. But they were able to do that just because they had such cheap clicks and such a wide market.
Right.
So I always like to look at CPCs because it really does shape the intensity of the environment that you're in. Generally, higher CPCs means more intensity, more competition, lower margins. You can't get away with as much. Things are going to be just more difficult everywhere you turn. And I've got some good news for you. Just like Stephen said, better than ever. Last year in 2019, we were looking at CPCs hanging around a little under $1 for the average customer. Now, in 2020, we're looking at CPCs around 70 cents, and it's trending downward, which is like, I've never experienced that. I've been doing PPC marketing for the last 10 years, give or take, and I've never seen sort of year over year changes to be so dramatic. And just for our own understanding, that's about a 20% decrease in cost per click, 2020 versus 2019. That's wild. So it's actually pretty interesting. January, February were, if we call those like standard baseline, compared to where we are and compared to where we finished in June, not only is it lower than it was in 2019, so we're already looking at a year over year decrease in cost per click, but from January to June, we're looking at about 10 to 13%. That's about a 13% decrease in cost per click from just the first month of 2020 to last month in 2020. So what does that mean? We can talk about that in a second, but really what that means is that there are fewer people in the ad auction, is how I interpret this. People have bowed out of the ad auction, and we absolutely know that because we saw a dramatic drop in April. That makes it cheaper for everyone else who stays in that ad auction. So again, Data's better than ever. You got to stay in the ad auction for as long as you can. You got to get your advertising right because clicks are cheaper and they're getting cheaper as this year goes on. So you need to be advertising. We've been sort of banging that drum since the beginning. Don't turn your ad campaigns off because you're making it cheaper for all of your competitors.
Yeah. For about as long as I've been in this game, the CPCs have been consistently around $1. Yeah, I mean, even before I was at Ad Badger, the first, stats post that we were doing talking about Amazon PPC data, the stats post and the podcast content was usually saying, cost per click is around like 97 cents, like 90 cents to $1. That's kind of been the swinging range. And then around the holidays, it'll jump up to like $1.10. And now pretty much for the entirety of 2020, the CPCs have been like below 80 cents. Of course, that's the average, and decreasing down to all-time lows in May of 64 cents. And in June, we're now sitting at 66 cents. And in April, we were at 68 cents. And yeah, from just what I've been hearing, just in communities online and from Amazon sellers, a lot of people have just paused their advertising altogether for numerous reasons. Some people have been experiencing inventory issues, supply chain issues, especially with just like, trade wars between US and China and with viruses and pandemics. But at the same time, what we're seeing is a massive boom in just like the consumer market moving to online retail.
That's right.
And so that is why conversion rates have actually been pretty consistent. But yeah, because we're seeing a dip in the cost per click, we're actually seeing more clicks per user. More impressions per user, more clicks per user. So there's actually more traffic that's coming online.
Yep.
But because so many other sellers are choosing to pause their ad campaigns entirely, the cost per click is actually coming down. A second reason why I'm hearing that a lot of sellers are pausing their ad campaigns is they're pausing their campaigns and realizing that their total sales have stayed consistent ever since Corona. So around March, a lot of people shut off their campaigns entirely. Their ad campaigns entirely in March, and they saw that their sales stayed about the same. I'm like, well, this is great. However, like, I don't know. Well, let me hear what you think about that, Mike, before I share my thoughts on that.
I think I already know what you're about to say, that they turned off their ad campaigns. Their revenue stayed mostly the same. And they're like, this is great. I don't need to advertise anymore because like, look at all this money I'm going to save by not doing advertising. However, if they kept it on, they would be like perhaps at an all-time high.
Exactly. Yeah, because there was such a surge of sales on Amazon that they paused their campaigns in the middle of a surge when a lot of other companies did sell out. A lot of our own clients completely sold out in March and April, like sold out of all their products, brought their ad campaigns to a screeching halt because they were out of inventory. And so obviously other sellers who were not previously, winning the top of search or ranking well organically, when all of our products go out of order or out of stock, I should say, they suddenly get a chance at the top of search that they never had before. And so their sales are going through the roof. So even though they pause their campaigns, they're getting better ad spots because other people have been sold out. And I think we talked about this before, but I think it's one of the funniest pictures. And I actually wonder if it's still happening. I'm going to do a quick search for hand sanitizer on Amazon. I think things are pretty much coming back into stock now, but yeah, things are pretty much back to normal now. There was a solid time when everything was out of stock, and you search hand sanitizer, and there's some piece of garbage product up there with 4 reviews. They're all 1 star. It's not even Prime. It's super expensive, and it has the best sellers badge.
They made it to the top.
It would have the best sellers badge and like the Amazon's Choice badge because everything else was sold out, and it's like the only product left in stock. So you just got into kinds of weird things like that. And sure, whoever's selling that product could be like, look at like our ads are going through the roof, and or we don't need ads rather because our sales are going through the roof. But now that people are coming back in stock and, competition is starting to resume a little bit, you're not really going to see that same level of performance. But at the same time, CPCs are still low, like really, really low. And I think a lot of people have been complacent with the sales that they're getting and not taking advantage of what we're actually seeing right now too is pretty much all-time lows on ACOS as well. I shouldn't say all-time lows because, of course, those kind of fluctuate too. But it's pretty much near the all-time lows. So even though there's been a bigger boom in traffic and total spend, there has been a cut in your cost per click, and conversion rates have kind of increased in some cases and stayed the same in others. And so that's just leading to basically, more sales, less ad spend, and so therefore lower ACOS. At least just for the month of June, ACOS was sitting at below 25% compared to the average that we've seen, which is usually in the 30 to 40% range. We kind of see it tend to smooth out around like the 32, 34% ACOS. So yeah, we're looking at 24.6% ACOS for the month of June.
It's a good time to advertise. We just moved from average cost per click, how that's getting lower. That's great. And because of that, even if you did nothing, you're just dealing with softer competition because there's probably less competitors, which is why the average CPC is getting better. And then because your average CPC is cheaper, you are now getting a better ACOS because that first half of that fraction, ad cost over sales, is now going to be a lot cheaper to get the same amount of clicks. So it's actually really interesting to sort of synthesize everything. Cheaper clicks leads to more clicks for the same amount of budget, which allows you to sort of get a little bit more aggressive if you are still remaining, because you're going to see cheaper clicks. You're going to try to push your budgets a little bit more, which I do believe that's what AdBadger users have done. From talking with them, as well as just looking at the data, the average AdBadger user is increasing their spend. They're looking at that feedback. They're hearing the battle cry to not pause your campaigns, to get aggressive if you can get aggressive, allowing people to spend more profitably. So not only is average ACOS sliding down, it's sort of moving slowly downward. January it was about 30%. And in June, it was about 27%. I'm sorry, 24%, 27% for the year. So we are seeing below the start of the year. So at the start of the year, we're looking at 29% ACOS, 30% ACOS, and then boom, March 27%, April 25%, May 26%, June 24%. So the average ACOS is sliding in the right direction as CPCs get cheaper. So again, it is still a fantastic time to advertise on Amazon, and that's a really exciting component to Amazon advertising. And I'm so proud of our users for doubling down and spending more. The amount of spend per month on average is on the up and up. The average AdBadger customer was spending about $7,000 a month in January. June, it was $10,000.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So people are spending more and getting more profit because the ACOS is cheaper. So really, really cool to see. Definitely proud of everyone out there in the AdBadger universe for really taking advantage of this opportunity. PPC is competitive. It's an auction. So you gotta have your car in the race in order to win at this.
So that's kind of what's going on the cost per click and the ACOS side of things, but also just on the sheer amount of impressions. So total ad impressions served, which is kind of an indicator of kind of search traffic. Impressions or clicks is kind of your good indicator of just how much search volume is going on, and that's providing opportunities for these ads to show. At least for the sample size that we're using, for our pool size, June was the first time that we actually collected over 1 billion impressions within a single month.
I know.
And so on a per your average Amazon seller basis, just going from May into June, the average Amazon seller got around 3 million impressions for their advertising in the month of May. That would have jumped up to about 4 million impressions in the month of June. And so, that took us to over 1 billion impressions served in our sample size. So quite a bit of traffic, quite a bit more traffic coming on. And again, at that same time, cost per clicks are at 66 cents. ACOS is at the lowest it's been for the whole entire year. And so, that's also why it was the biggest sales month. The biggest sales month, again, going off your average seller made about $34,000 in sales in the month of June. Yeah, it's kind of been month over month growth, but if you look at January, which is usually a pretty big month, In January, the average seller made about 24,000, and in June, it made about 34,000. So we're just seeing a lot of growth here.
Yes. So conversion rate is another thing. That is the rate at which your clicks end up converting. That's been on the up and up too. It was actually pretty interesting because conversion rate is the one thing that, when you take everything into consideration about the pandemic, it starts to make sense. But there was definitely a time where clicks got cheaper, people got more clicks, but because they were clicking on so many different things, there were some shipping date issues and all these different factors. What ended up happening is that conversion rate didn't follow exactly the same as ACOS, where ACOS is just gradually trending down. The conversion rates, when you look at it on a day-to-day basis, had a lot of volatility for the year. But when you look at it and you smooth that out over a month time frame, it's actually really promising. So in the same way that CPCs are getting better, the same way that ACOSs are getting better, the same way that people are spending more, getting more clicks, the rate at which we are getting conversions is actually trending upwards too. So June was really strong. It's actually pretty interesting. Like, was it better than 2019? Not necessarily. And I only think the reason is because of shipping times. If there's any delay in shipping, I do think that makes people click around a lot more. And I do think there's been a little bit more of that in 2020 as people struggle to get all their products in and Prime and have really fast ship times. I think that's the only real factor here, but it gets canceled out with the super low CPCs. So I don't see it being too big of a story here.
Yeah, it's still been, pretty consistently above 10%, which in the past it's kind of fluctuated between 9 to 10% conversion rate. So yeah, sitting consistently above 10 is still pretty impressive, pretty high, pretty strong. But yeah, even the month of June, highest conversion rate year to date with a 10.3% average conversion rate. Of course, a big part of that too is we're heading into summer too, and so a lot more people will start shopping for things. High schools are graduating. June's usually a pretty hot month in general. But yeah, this year in particular, just compared this June to last year's June. Last year's June had a 34.7% ACOS. This year's June had a 24.6% ACOS. So quite a significant amount lower. Last year's June had 29,000 in sales on average per user. This year, as we mentioned, 34,000 in sales per user. However, the cost per clicks were different from 97 cents average cost per click in 2019 to 66 cents average cost per click in 2020. Last figure here is that conversion rate averaged 9.7% in June 2019, and like I said, 10.3% average conversion rate for June 2020. So going into the summer months, I'm expecting to see that continuing rise in total impressions, total clicks, total sales, strong conversion rates, low cost per click, that is low competition from competitors. But the other thing that's making me really, I guess, optimistic is just kind of seeing reports that even with like the whole economic turmoil and everything, a lot of Americans have never felt wealthier. I mean, even one statistic was saying that like 68% of Americans on collecting unemployment checks from the stimulus package that the government had put out are making like at least 20% more than they usually made when they were employed. And the savings rate is at like all-time highs as well for how much people are savings. It's up from like, somewhere between 4 to 7%. It's up to was up at 30% in May, average savings rate, which is, the rate at which your disposable income is being saved. So a lot of Americans are sitting on money. And I think or at least more than they're probably used to because they haven't been eating out, they've got more disposable income right now. And so I think going into July, going into the summer months when people are going to start, being on, summer vacation, they're going to have more to spend on their like hobbies or whatever they're doing to just like entertain themselves at home. So I'm personally expecting a pretty big July. So we're going to be ready for that.
I think the big thing for me is like, you don't even need to speculate like, what sort of consumer trends are going to be happening. I feel like the lesson is if you didn't know anything, if you were literally just sitting in front of your Amazon account every single day of 2020 so far, and all you were to do is just look at the data inside your account, and all you were to do is, have your good principles down. PPC is a competition. When you have opportunity, go for it. Even if you weren't paying attention and you didn't even know the pandemic existed, you would still be coming out ahead. And that's because PPC shouldn't really be something you take your foot off the gas on. Push it when you can, and you want to be smart when you can too. That doesn't mean go crazy on things that just aren't converting, but it means you want positive feedback loops. So as your CPC was getting cheaper, if you were really good at PPC, you would have seen that and continue to double down on it. It's like, oh, I can get more clicks for this. I think one of the easiest, this is like a no-brainer thing. It's just like, if you have a campaign that's doing well, why not increase the budget on it? If you have a really strong keyword, why not bid a little bit more aggressively on it and get some more traffic for it, get it into a better position? And if you just follow those two things, no matter what happens in the outside world, in the walled garden of your PPC account, it's like, if you see these inputs, you know what your outputs are, to be pushing it forward. So is the world economy going to crash in the next however long? Who the heck knows? But it's like, cost per clicks are cheaper than they ever have been. ACOSs are getting cheaper. And as good PPCers, these are the environments where you want to spend more and generate more revenue from it. Because if you don't, you're just going to be making your clicks cheaper for a competition, and they're going to capitalize on it.
Yeah, and that's a great thought there, Mike. And something I would add is, I guess to restate what you said is, if you're just looking at the trends right now and you're not even paying attention to what's going on in the world and everything, and you just look at these charts that we'll be posting on our website, on our blog post, you just see ACOS getting lower and lower and over time, CPCs going down, 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 sales going up, up, up. It's just like, okay, sweet, let's advertise more. Could things change quickly and suddenly? Sure, absolutely. So be ready to pivot if that happens, but don't sit on the sidelines anticipating something and waiting for something to happen, because you're just missing out on that opportunity, right? You're seeing a really good opportunity. You're thinking the luck's going to change, and so maybe you don't want to run your ads or whatever. But yeah, until we start to see patterns change, take advantage of it.
Yeah, you have to be responsive when it comes to PPC. I mean, that's it. So CPCs go up, you know how to respond. Your ACOS is going in the wrong direction, you know how to respond. As a listener of this show, you know how to handle those things, and you know how to interpret that. So I feel pretty good about this summary of 2020. Steven, sometimes I'm asked to go give a talk on PPC. It's like, oh, what do you think about this? And my answers are always the same. It's like, good PPC principles don't change when something's happening. Like, good PPC is always responsive. Good PPC is always doing bid optimization. Good PPC is always thinking about keyword targets. Those principles just become more important, and maybe you should do them more frequently at certain times. But good PPC is good PPC in any market. So analyze your data, optimize your data, and repeat. That's it in a nutshell. That's every single episode. We could just say that.
Bam.
What's your data doing? Go do this.
Yeah.
It's like some big, massive decision tree.
Yep. Pretty much.
That's it, Stephen. But outside the world of PPC, I hope you are going to have a good rest of the year in 2020. Try to make it as good as possible.
Today's July 2nd. I hope you guys enjoy your July 4th. By the time you're listening to this, I hope you did enjoy your 4th of July. Hey guys,
yes.
Welcome back from vacation. Yeah.
Happy Independence Day, America. Happy birthday, Canada, as well. July 1st.
And yeah, we'll continue to give you guys these updates. We don't take breaks. We pump these out week after week. And so we will catch you guys next Wednesday at the next PPC Den podcast.